You know, some feelings are so incredibly deep, so profound, that they just echo for centuries. So today, we're going to dive into one of the most powerful poems about loss ever written. It's basically a dream captured on paper that has moved readers for almost 1,000 years. Let's get into it.
So this is how it begins. 10 years, living and dead, two vast unknowns. I mean, that just hits you, right? The separation he's talking about isn't just about time, it's this uncrossable chasm between life and death itself. So you have to ask, what kind of loss, what kind of love could possibly inspire a line with that much weight?
Well, the answer lies with the poet, a man named Su Shi, and the person at the heart of his unending grief, his first wife, Wang Fu.
Okay, so to really get this poem, you gotta know a little about the guy who wrote it, Su Shi. This man was a titan of Chinese literature, a true Renaissance man. He was known for this bold, powerful, almost unrestrained style. He literally founded a whole new school of poetry. And that's exactly what makes this piece so stunning. It's this incredibly rare, totally unfiltered look into the vulnerable heart of a literary giant.
So this timeline here, it really sets the stage for that powerful first line. He marries his wife when they're just teenagers. They share about a decade of life together, and then she's gone. For 10 long years, he carries that loss with him. And then, one night, a full decade later, he has a dream that just brings it all rushing back to the surface.
And get this, she was only 27. Just 27 years old when she died. So, this wasn't some gentle fading away after a long life. No, this was a sudden, tragic blow that just left this massive, unfillable hole in Su Shi's world. All right, so the poem kicks off with Su Shi describing his waking life, what that decade without her has actually been like. And it's a reality that's been defined by this constant, inescapable sorrow. And this part is just so powerful. He's basically saying that the years of hardship, the crazy political turmoil of his career, and just the sheer weight of his grief have physically changed him. It's like he's aged way beyond his years. His hair's gone right. He's become a stranger even to the memory of the man his wife once knew. And this is where we get this brilliant kind of psychological twist. He writes, I don't try to remember, but then immediately says, yet I can't forget. It's not like a memory that's fading and he has to, struggle to bring it back. Nope, it's the total opposite. His grief is so much a part of him, it's just this constant presence. He doesn't need to think of her because she is simply always there.
And this line, wow, it just paints such a picture of his isolation. At the time he wrote this, he was working as an official way up in the north, but her grave was 1,000 miles away back in their hometown. So he's separated from her, not just by death, but by this huge physical distance. He can't even go to her grave to talk to her, to share his sadness. He is just completely and utterly alone with it.
But then the whole poem shifts. That harsh, waking reality, it just kind of dissolves, and he pulls us right into the heart of his experience, the dream that finally brought him back to her. You can almost feel the shift in the air, right? After all that pain and all that distance, there's the sudden, quiet return. His subconscious, his dream self, has finally done what he couldn't do in real life. It's brought him home.
And what's so amazing is that the dream isn't some big, dramatic, heavenly reunion. No, it's grounded in this simple, everyday detail. A small window in their old house. A spot where he must have seen her 1,000 times before. And this is the detail that is just so heartbreakingly real. He doesn't dream of her as some angel or of them having this big, dramatic hug. He dreams of a quiet, ordinary moment. He sees her just as she was, sitting at her dressing table. And it's that quiet, simple, everyday memory that makes the loss feel so incredibly huge.
And in this dream, they don't say a word. And let's be real, what could they possibly say? How could any words bridge a 10-year gap and the finality of death? That silence is just packed with a decade of unspoken sorrow and longing. And that brings us to the emotional peak of the whole poem. It's like all that grief he's been carrying, that desolation he had nowhere to speak of, it all comes pouring out in this one, single, powerful image. A shared look, and an ocean of tears. Okay, so after that incredibly intense, intimate dream, Su Shi snaps us back to the real world. And it's in this last part that he really cements this poem's place as an absolute masterpiece of mourning.
The dream's over. He's awake, and he's back to being 1,000 miles away.
And that warm, close image of his wife at her makeup table is suddenly replaced by this cold, distant, lonely picture of her grave on a small hill covered in pine trees under the moonlight. That, he says, is the place that breaks his heart year after year.
So here's the thing. You have to understand this poem wasn't just an emotional gut punch. It was a total game changer for literature. He took this specific poetry form, the synergy, which was usually for stuff like romance or nature, and he used it to write a deeply personal eulogy. He totally rejected the stiff, formal ways of writing about grief and just gave the world something raw, honest, and deeply human. He literally created a new way to talk about loss.
And all this really leaves us with one big question. Su Shi felt he had nowhere to speak of desolation. But through this one poem, he managed to speak to 1,000 years of readers. It really makes you think, doesn't it? How does art, a poem, a song, a painting, give a voice to the kind of grief that leaves the rest of us completely speechless?